Hi everyone, welcome back to Prudent Preservations. So, we have harvested all of the Cherokee Purples that we had in the greenhouse that was growing right now. There are more out there, but they're not quite ready. So we left them there, and we've got all of these. This is a 21 quart pot, and it's just full and overflowing. And I've got some down here, so if I knocked it down or something, I just went ahead and picked it. And so I've got some of them that are a little greener than I otherwise would have picked. This one is washed, and I'm just going to core it so that you can see what that's like. What we're going to do is wash these, core them, and then I'm going to roast some of them to make some spaghetti sauce. Might make some salsa. And I might, if there's a bunch left over still, then I'll probably put the rest of them in this pot and cook them down and can some spaghetti sauce. But certainly I'm going to roast some with some of this garlic here that I had from last year. It's all nice and dry now. And so I will use some of the garlic from last year, roast some of these, and I've got a bunch of peppers here. Just varied peppers from, mostly this is from a hydroponic garden that I have, and there is not a lot, but I'd like to get them used up, and so especially with, like, some of them are just jalapenos, so they're not that spicy. Probably be careful with those little yellow ones. Those ones are lemon hot peppers. They're very spicy, so maybe I won't use those in the spaghetti sauce, but maybe the salsa. So we're just going to core this one. I have a tool. It's got a little button back here. To be honest, I use it sometimes when they have a little small core like this one. But a lot of the times I just use a knife and take the core out. But they do make a tool for it. You can just push that right down into the core. Twist. And for the most part, it takes the core right out. Now I will quarter these. I'm going to put them on a sheet and roast them for about an hour at like 400 degrees. Just like that. That looks delicious. So I'm going to get to coring these, and we'll come back when I'm done. Here we go. So I went ahead and cored and quartered enough to fill a sheet pan, enough of my tomatoes to fill a sheet pan. And I also have cleaned some of the garlic here. So I've got my garlic right here. This we grew in the yard, and it didn't get very big. It wasn't the elephant garlic that we might have liked, but it suits just fine. And I've also got a couple jalapenos. So I'm going to cut those up, toss the garlic on the plate, and we're going to roast all of it at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to coat them in some olive oil and some salt and pepper. Okay, ready for the oven. We're going to let these cool off a little bit, and then we're going to put them in our pot. And I'm probably going to cook up some onions first, and then we're going to add this to it, and it's going to taste amazing. So after the garlic has cooled off a bit, you can just squeeze it right out. Easy. This lets me have beautiful roasted garlic and none of the work. So we have everything in the pot. We've got our garlic and our peppers and our tomatoes, and I've got some onions that I'm going to go ahead and cook the onions and put some onions in there too. And well, all I'm going to do is get an immersion blender and blend it to my personal preference of consistency, and then cook it down a little bit and thicken it up. Okay, now I'm going to put it on the stove and I'm going to simmer it until it's not as watery as it is right now, but it's pretty close to being done. And I'll add the onions and blend those as well because we like ours to be not chunky. So I will get it so it's pretty thin, and then just cook it down so that it's a nice smooth sauce that we can add on our spaghetti. You can see that we still have a lot of tomatoes. There is a lot of Cherokee Purples. So probably we will also make some salsa. I will can whatever sauce we don't eat tonight. And we might make a lot of salsa. And what's spaghetti sauce without some homemade pasta? So our sauce is almost done. It's getting pretty thick now. It's been simmering for a few hours, probably about 3 hours right now. So it's getting pretty close to being done. And the last thing I want to do is add in some fresh basil. So I went to our hydroponic garden and picked some basil, and I'm just going to cut it up and add it in. So we finished our sauce. It's wonderful. Now we're going to can what's left. We ended up with 5 quarts left. So I've put them in the jars with a half a teaspoon of citric acid. You need the citric acid because tomatoes are kind of a borderline vegetable, fruit. They're borderline in their acidity. And so we need to add the citric acid to lower the pH in the jars so that we can can it safely, so that botulism can't grow in this environment. So I went ahead and added a half a teaspoon because I have 5 quart jars. I have quarts and not pints. So I put a half a teaspoon of citric acid in the jars. And because I was a little bit messy when I jarred it up, I'm also going to wipe the rims with some vinegar to make sure that I get a nice clean rim. We have a clean rim, we can have a clean seal. Now, see? Good thing. Now I'm going to pop my lids on. These jars are hot. So I just want it to be fingertip tight. And what does that mean? What it means is I'm not going to use my wrist to ratchet the lid down at all. I'm only going to use my fingertips. And I just want it to be tight enough so that it's not going to wiggle around and come off. It doesn't need to be very tight at all. We just want it to be held against the glass. So I've got all 5 of my jars now. And what I'm going to use is my digital pressure canner today. If you don't have a digital canner and you just have an All-American or you just have any other kind of pressure canner, it is totally fine. The processing time is not going to change. So I've got my citric acid in the sauce. I'm going to process my quarts at 40 minutes. For me, that's at 10 pounds of pressure. For you, it might be different. Always follow the canning guidelines, read up on them, and make your own decisions regarding what you're going to do safely. The alphabet agencies are all going to tell you to follow an approved recipe, and there are many approved recipes. You can buy books, you can go on the website and look up dozens of approved recipes, and if you want to use those, that's perfect. I didn't use exactly an approved recipe because I have heirloom tomatoes and I have whatever peppers I happen to have out in the garden. And so I kind of add and take away to my own taste, to what I think that the family is going to eat. Because we are homesteading and we are trying to, because we are prudent preservations. So for me, I'm not going to go to the store and make sure that I have exactly a half a cup of diced peppers or whatever the recipe calls for. I just put in the pot what I had on hand. So I have my 5 jars. I'm going to put them in my digital canner. And the great thing about this is when I press all the buttons and it starts, I don't have to come back and look at it and babysit it. And that's the reason I'm going to use it today. Because it's getting close to bedtime. And I don't want to be messing with my canner while also trying to do, bedtime routine. So, 5 quarts in the canner. This will hold about 7 quarts. I don't have another couple of quarts. I could take the time, I suppose, to go find something else that I wanted to can, but we're good with it. 5 is going to be fine tonight. So, this is going to warm up. It takes maybe 20 minutes or so for it to get to the right temperature, everything to be in the right temperature. And then it's going to beep at me and it's going to tell me, okay, make sure that your jars are in and, you sure you're ready to go. And all you really have to do is follow the little button. It's very simple. So we're going to come back when this is done in about an hour because even though we're only going to can for 40 minutes, it's going to take it about 20 minutes to come up to temperature, and then really it's going to be more like an hour and a half or 2 hours. Might even come back tomorrow. Because after it's done canning for that 40 minutes, it has to come back down from temperature. So we will come back when it's done. The great thing about these walkaways is that I can just put the jars in. Once it gets going, which just takes about 20 minutes, I can walk away and come back when I'm ready. So it is the next day, and my pressure canner says it's done. So we're just going to take off our regulator, open it up, and start taking out our jars. These are perfect. I will say I didn't add any vinegar to the water. I am notorious for forgetting to add the vinegar, and that makes the jars cloudy when you take them out. It washes off, you can just wash it off, but if you add the vinegar while they're canning, you don't have to wash the jars off like that. They're easy, simple. You can just rinse them off. That's it. 5 beautiful sealed jars of Cherokee Purple Heirloom spaghetti sauce. I suspect we'll have to still make some salsa, because even though I thought I was going to make a pretty big dent in all of the tomatoes, my large 21 quart roaster is still about 3/4 full. So I don't even know that I used half of them. I suspect we're gonna have some salsa.